Highly.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all our viewers from the different parts of the country and the world. So, this is the second episode of OTalakayan, and OTalakayan is the PAOT's first online interview program that will tackle different topics and issues in OT practice and education. So, for the month of May, the topics will focus on telehealth.
Okay, so we will try first to probably recap what has transpired during our first session. So during our first session, we have learned the basics of telehealth. So we have identified what are the forms, what are the types, the benefits, and the requirements, both on the resources and competencies for both the parents and for the therapists. But one important consideration that was discussed last time is that even if telehealth is considered to be an alternative form of service provision, it should still be upholding our standards of practice and code of ethics. That's why we're offering this program so that the professionals, the OT professionals out there, wouldn't just know the requirements or the basics of telehealth, they will be able to carry it out right. So we have this program. So what are the other important considerations if we would want to know how to do it right? So elements such as your informed consent, accountability, liability, billing. Well, basically, these are the constructs that we're going to discuss for today's session. So, Lee, you may want to introduce to our audience our esteemed resource persons for our second episode.
Okay, so we're very happy to introduce to you two important guests for today. First is Ian Michano. So Ian or Eduardo Angelo Michano is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Occupational Therapy last 2010 from the UP College of Allied Medical Professions. He has been a clinician for almost 10 years. Si classmate ko tong si Ian. He's the current program director of Ignite Therapy Center in Imus, Cavite, and he has been using telehealth to provide services since the start of the enhanced community quarantine. So, hi, Ian.
Hi Lee, hi Kim, hi
Thank you for
everybody.
joining us today. Okay. Our second guest is Dino Roel de Guzman. So, Dino also graduated BS Occupational Therapy in 2013 from UP Camp, and he worked as a clinician for 2 years before he studied law at the UP College of Law. So Dino just graduated last year and he passed the 2019 bar examinations. So hi Dino,
Hi, Lee. Hi, everyone.
thanks for joining us today.
Welcome.
Hey,
Okay, so I think this will really be a very interesting episode. A lot of questions have already been raised even during our first episode that has something to do with our episode right now. So probably we could start with this one. What is an informed consent? Who gives informed consent? And what manner of informed consent would be considered as sufficient already? So maybe we could start with Dino.
Thank you, Kim. I would like to share a document which contains all of the provisions which may be relevant to telehealth. So here's the document. How do you open this? Okay, share. So a therapist who plans to use the ICTs in their treatment sessions must observe and religiously comply with the provisions of the Data Privacy Law or RA 10173. Hence, I would like to start by emphasizing this specific provision, Section 38, or the interpretation provision of the Data Privacy Law. Any doubt in the interpretation of any provision of this act shall be liberally interpreted in a manner mindful of the interests and the rights and interests of the individual about whom personal information is processed. It simply means that when you craft your consent forms or perform your treatment sessions with negligence, Should your client decide to file a case against you, the courts would interpret liberally the law in favor of your client. Kaya nga there is a need for us to exercise due diligence in complying with the data privacy law and ensure the safety and security of our clients. With that in mind, I would like to start with one important aspect in the practice of occupational therapy and in data privacy: consent. Being an occupational therapist, informed consent is not a strange topic. We were taught by our professors and mentors to always obtain consent from our clients before we perform any act related to the practice of OT in our sessions. Under the law, consent requires the satisfaction of the following questions: who is to give consent, and how is consent given? We were taught that consent must be obtained from our clients before we carry on with any act as an occupational therapist. However, under the new civil code, minors are not capable of giving consent to a contract. The same goes with the insane under the law, which may cover some of our clients with mental health disorders despite attaining the age of majority of 18 years old. Thus, consent as to his or her parent or guardian or whoever the law entitles the right to give consent for a client. So now, how is consent given? The law allows consent to be evidenced by written, electronic, or recorded means. Consent must also be time-bound within a specified and legitimate purpose. To supplement further, I would like to introduce to you the three principles covered under by the implementing rules and regulations of the Data Privacy Act to guide us in our telehealth sessions. The first principle is the principle of transparency. An occupational therapist, in order for him to wrest informed consent from his or her clients, must tell everything that you will do, including the fact that you will use the data you've obtained from your session or your evaluation, that you will use this data in order to create a treatment plan for your client. In addition to this, your consent forms or contracts must be clear, easy to access, and in a language that is understandable by your client or the person who will give consent for your client. The second principle is the legitimate purpose, or in short, in our profession, the purpose is only for occupational therapy and nothing else. Third is proportionality. An occupational therapist should not go beyond what is agreed upon and must be done within the purpose agreed with your client. Following these three principles, we simply need to be transparent and act within the purpose agreed upon with your client or the person who gave consent for your client. And in addition to this, the Data Privacy Act also gave us several rights of the data subject, which I believe should be included in our consent forms or contracts. Transparency requires us to inform the client of his or her rights under the Data Privacy Act. Following the law, the implementing rules and regulation gave us 6 rights of the data subject. First is the right to be informed. Second is the right to object to any of the processing of his or her personal data. Third is the right to access of his or her data. Fourth is the right to rectification or to dispute the inaccuracy or error of his or her personal data. Fifth is the right to erasure or blocking, which is subject to several rules under the law. And sixth is the right to damages. Prudency would require us to include these rights in our contracts or consent forms to our clients in order for them to give their informed consent. Bearing that in mind, I would like to give the floor to our host in order for them to ask the questions.
Okay, so thank you, Dina. So you have already introduced to us the principles to be followed. You mentioned something about transparency. It should be clear, easy to access, easily understood, proportionality, and even certain rights that the clients may have. So maybe some therapists are asking what should be the essential components or what should be the essential parts that should be incorporated in an informed consent form? There.
Thank you for that question. As with any other contracts, there must be a subject, an object, and of course, the purpose of your contract. So in this case, kung gagawa tayo ng consent form or contract with your clients, you must always specify kung what are the things that you will do and what is the purpose of the things that you will do. And in addition to that, as I've mentioned earlier, there are certain rights that we need to inform our clients para maging fully notified siya of what are the rights that he or she can exercise should he or she desires to exercise them. And finally, I forgot to add this. How do I share this here? I forgot to include this. One of the parts that are usually included in consent forms is the use of waiver, which absolves certain liabilities to the occupational therapist. I do not support the use of the rampant use of waivers, especially if it's contrary to law, public order, public policy. So what are the things that which are contrary to law, public order, public policy? Well, first is that you cannot create a waiver against future negligence, meaning that if your waiver contains a provision which states that I will be absolved from any negligence which I will perform during the session, courts would decide against you and rule that this provision is against public policy. Hence, when a therapist decides to use waivers in the contract or the consent forms, I would suggest that the waiver of rights should not run against this guidelines: law, public order, public policy, morals, or good customs. So, is there any more other questions or clarifications?
Okay, siguro thank you for those perspectives, Dino. Talagang na comprehensively na napaliwanag mo sa amin what should it contain, how important it is. Siguro it's maganda matanong si Ian kasi si Ian as a clinic manager now and as a clinician, he's been already issuing informed consent or getting informed consent from your client. So what's your experience, Ian? Dito?
Okay. First of all, sorry for the distraction. Walang bantay yung anak ko. So she will be appearing on screen.
Okay.
I will try my best to be Don't worry, you have my consent that she appears here. Kasi wala akong choice. Okay. Anyway, let me just clarify one thing. I did tell you that I was practicing telehealth since the ECQ. But by telehealth, I meant, di ba kasama sa telehealth yung home programs? Pagbigay ng home programs. So yun muna yung unang inumpisahan namin kasi even pre-COVID naman, we do give, as occupational therapists, we do give home programs to our clients, di ba? Ayun. So I really waited for the guidelines of the PAOT, of the PAOT to before we resorted or before we did actual teletherapy. Okay? And then I prepared some slides just to serve as a visual in case mabagal ang connection. So in the clinic setting, here are our experiences at Ignite Therapy Center in terms of informed consent. Nakikita ba ninyo? Kita ba, Lee? Okay. So, informed consent first is in the form of documents with physical and e-signatures. Di ba, Dino, yun yung ano talaga, yun yung as legitimate as it goes. Pag may firma, yung contract, tapos, may contract, tapos pinadala sa kanila, tapos may pirma. Okay? Pag hindi siya available, ayun, so either mailed or scanned and photographed. So we send an e-copy. We have the parents print it, sign it, and then scan it or take a picture of it. Okay? And then we have them send it back to us via email. Okay? Another that would do was, although personally hindi ko siya na-try, was consent via email. Nag-reply sila pero walang signature. Okay? Tapos ito yung actually admittedly mas nagagawa ko as a therapist. Okay? Not necessarily as clinic manager. which is recorded and videotape verbal consent. Okay? Kasi the reality is, hindi lahat ng parents, at least sa center namin, not all the parents, especially the grandparents, know their way around technology. So, some of them don't even know how to make e-signatures. Okay, so a lot of them don't have printers and scanners at home.
They're okay. They're happy now.
That's good. Thank you, Anak. Okay, so I would just like to clarify, ayan nga, sinabi ko na, not all families have knowledge and or resources when it comes to tech. Some are adjusting to the learning curve. So I would just like to clarify that with recorded consent, I actually asked twice. Okay, first is, before, pwede po ba kayong makuna ng video? Okay, so hindi pa siya naka-record. Diba sa Zoom, may record option siya. So kung pumayag sila, siguro po, mami, punta muna tayo sa lugar na na comfortable kayong mag-record. Tapos, hindi muna kasama yung anak nila. Okay? And then, when I press record, sabihin ko, I will press record, tapos I will ask again, do you consent to be recorded? And to which they will say, they can say yes. Okay, tapos the highlights, so ito yung question kanina, ito yung mga part ng consent form. Okay, or nung informed consent. So, before all that, to make the recorded consent easier, meron kasi kaming therapy contract even before COVID pa. Okay, so lahat ng mga sinabi, almost all, if not all, ng mga sinabi ni Dino,
On the door.
yung mga sinabi ni Dino kanina, covered naman. Kasi we consulted naman lawyers on making those that contract. Okay? Ang hindi lang talaga niya covered ay yung gagawin yung session via telehealth. So yun yung additional na mention, yung special mention dun sa informed consent. So resumption of therapy amid quarantine restrictions. Kasi yun naman talaga yung reason. Hindi kasi hindi makalabas. Okay, we would have preferred inpatient therapy. Okay, I think we all agree with that, right? So we make sure that they have the physical copy of their therapy contract at home. Okay, they read it, siguro they affirm their agreement, their consent for their child undergoing therapy. Tapos, in that most clauses apply except for lack of direct patient care restrictions. So Dino a while ago talked about due diligence and practice of prudence in treating, in data privacy, but also in treating. Okay, we don't want to, anything we do, anything that could go wrong is on us, correct? Okay, on us as the practitioner. So that is why sinasabi rin namin do sa informed consent na we will, as much as possible, refrain from doing strategies, performing strategies that are required. Sorry, Tagalogin ko ha. Iniiwasan namin gumawa ng mga techniques na certified or licensed lang yung gagawa. Okay? As much as possible. Okay? Like, for example, mga palpation, patient handling, bow bath, those kinds of things. Okay? Instead, we focus more on as occupational therapists, target din naman natin to yung mga roles, routines, habits. More of that will be discussed in future telehealth, OT via telehealth, OTalakayan sessions. Okay? So yun. Ano yun? Parang disclaimer din to as much as an informed consent. Parang iwas muna tayong gumawa ng mga ganun. Okay? For your safety and for the client safety, first of all. Tapos handling of personal data, of course, this is online. Everything is online. So the running notes are online. Other reports, although we haven't done other reports other than running notes and home programs, pero yung mga yun online ibibigay. So we have to take extra care of that. Okay? Tapos ito yung part na pinili ko siguro sa time factor, that it is only effective during ECQ. when Cavite or when wherever we are is declared under, when the ECQ is lifted in our area at allowed na tayo mag-practice ulit ng in-person therapy, okay, then either we go back to in-person therapy, or if not, we will ask them again. We will renew the consent, the informed consent. We will do it over again. Okay? With that, so thank you, Una. I hope I answered the question.
Okay. So sige, thank you. So parang what we're getting here is that yung alam nating pagkuha ng informed consent before, na usually document, no, when we do our research, when we recruit participants, kunyari, or kahit in clinical practice, no, pag mayroon tayong new client, tapos magpapa-inform consent, usually have a written document where the client or the family caregiver signs. Ngayon, mukhang mas parang creative yung ways natin, no? Ang sinishare ni Ian, pwede tayo may video at parang twice niya ina-ask, di ba? So one is before you actually record, and second is while recording already. So you have a record, no? Okay, so parang it all boils down to how you are protecting your practice as well. Right?
Yes, and we want the client to make as informed decisions as possible.
Okay. Thank you. Kim, meron ba tayong mga gusto pang linawin about informed consent?
Maybe just to reiterate certain provisions in the guidelines that was also released by POP. We have written there the essential components too of an informed consent. So basically, these are the staples for any informed consent. So we have something about informing about the nature of the service, the duration, just like what Ian has mentioned, what will be the time period as to when this would just be applicable. So that is also recommended in our guideline. The risk, so they should really be informed of that one. Alternative options, right? So we would want our clients to have informed decision, informed choices, and they would just be able to know that if they will be presented with the options available. So right now we do know we have telehealth, we have the provision of home program. So different centers came up with all of these types of services. So maybe the parent should also be knowledgeable. What are my options? And then he or she would be weighing the benefits or the risk per option. Another important component that we have also written in the PAOT guideline would be the confidentiality clauses. So basically, those are the important considerations when we are to write the informed consent form. But I would want to also add, more than the form itself, what should be more emphasized would be the process. I mean, it shouldn't just be giving the document or giving something to the parents or to the caregivers without really having them be given the opportunity to ask or probably to question certain provisions there. So that is, I think, more important, more than the form or more than the document. Aside from that one, it should be backed up by us, the professionals, explaining thoroughly what are those, so that we didn't just give an informed consent form, we really underwent the informed consent process. And I think that would make our services more ethical at that, if that would be the case. So, yeah, I would just want to add certain provisions in the guidelines provided by PE. Lee?
Okay. So, siguro ang tanong ng marami ngayon, no? Kasi yung telehealth, hindi pa masyadong sanay yung mga therapists na gamitin ito as a medium of service provision, no? So, to what extent ba is an OT liable, no? Kapag magkaroon ng breach of data privacy during telehealth, no? Or yun, liability siguro when something unforeseen may happen. What's the worst that can happen?
Ako ba? Sige. So, I would like to go back to the document na pinakita ko kanina about yung laws na available ngayon. Ito. So, under the data privacy law, meron tayong iba't ibang, as an occupational therapist, meron tayong obligations na kailangan natin i-fulfill, which in particular focuses on the security and the safety of your sessions. So an occupational therapist must implement reasonable and appropriate measures to protect the personal information against accidental or the unlawful breach. The occupational therapist must ensure security in their sessions through using secure applications to minimize the risk of breach, and also must store data with due diligence. Failure to do so constitutes a violation under the law, which, sige, pakita ko na sa inyo. Ito yung mga penalties provided for under the Data Privacy Act. Medyo broad siya, kung interesado kayo, isasend ko naman itong report na ito. Pero meron tayong penalties for unauthorized processing, meron tayong penalties for anything na related to negligence, meron tayong penalties for improper disposal, processing of personal information for unauthorized purposes, unauthorized access or intentional breach, concealment of security breaches, malicious disclosure, unauthorized disclosure. All in all, it deals with yung mga acts which may be willful or which may be due to your negligence na nagkaroon ng release of information. So kumbaga, for example, nag-record ka ng video sa session mo, pero for some reason, na-hack yung account mo or na-hack yung computer mo, at yung video na ito is na-release in public by some hacker or some person na merong intention to damage your client, kung nagkaroon ka ng negligence sa pag-protect na itong ng video na ito, possible na maging liable ka to your own negligence, which in this case may be punishable by an imprisonment for 1 to 3 years and a fine of 500,000 to 2 million pesos. So going back, meron kasi tayong isa pang obligation. So assuming na nagkaroon ng breach ng data, are you immediately liable? According to the law, hindi ka liable agad, because there is an obligation under the Data Privacy Act, in particular the implementing rules and regulations, wherein obligated ka as an occupational therapist to your client to notify the National Privacy Commission na nagkaroon ng breach. So in this case, under the law, meron tayong 72 hours na upon knowledge na nagkaroon ng breach or meron kang reasonable belief na nagkaroon ng breach itself na sa tingin mo makaka-damage sa iyong client, kailangan mong i-notify agad yung National Privacy Commission following the format provided in the IRR. At ang format na yun is that kailangan sa report mo, nakasulat doon ng facts surrounding yung incident, yung effects of such incident, and yung remedial actions na ginawa mo to minimize the damage or at least mga acts na ginawa mo before you reported the incident to the National Privacy Commission. So in this case, yung last part ito, yung remedial actions, important ito dahil it's possible na this is the factor na pwedeng tingnan ng NPC whether or not nag-commit ka ng acts of negligence na possibly maging cause or source of your liability under the law. Kaya nga, I would suggest na before reporting or during your sessions, exercise due diligence in your sessions para ma-prevent or ma-minimize yung chances or yung risk of any breach na pwede mangyari sa inyong mga sessions. With that in mind, I would like to give the floor to Lee or the hosts. Sam.
All right. Thank you, Dino, for that. So it looks like it's really very important na ako naisip ko ngayon kung ako ay isang therapist na mag-telehealth, kailangan yung gagamitin ko pa lang na platform secure na, di ba? I mean, ang dami-daming kumakalat na balita ngayon about different video conferencing apps na may mga breach of privacy daw. So, isa pala to sa dapat talagang i-consider ng ating mga clinicians, di ba? Kung mag-telehealth ka, siguraduhin mong medyo secure, pero meron ka rin palang safety net, as you say, no?
Yes.
Okay. Kaya kailangan din alam natin kung paano natin makakontakt at manonotify ang ating National Privacy Commission. So parang mag-ready ka lang just in case na meron kang ready letter ba yan or template to use, no, just in case you need to contact the NPC within 72 hours. So thank you for that. Ian, meron ka ba tayong may dadagdag doon?
Okay, so mahirap mag-monitor mahirap gawin yung due diligence at saka yung due diligence sa pag-monitor ng privacy, pag-ensure ng privacy ng mga client. Kung dati, kailangan lang aware tayo kung sino yung nanonood sa session. Okay, aware tayo kung saan napupunta yung physical reports. Ngayon, mas madami pang kailangang measures. Okay? So, malaking bagay talaga yung vigilance, constant vigilance, presence of mind. Okay? Pero ito yung mga sinasabi natin na safety nets, yung sinasabi ni Lee na safety nets and lines of defense. At least ito yung ginagamit ko. Okay? Ngayon pa lang sasabihin ko na this is something a lot of us right now are not gonna like. These will cost you money. Okay? Why? Mas mabuti na kasi marami siyang free versions. Pero mas mabuti na yung may binabayaran ka to ensure. Okay? So ito yung lines of defense. So first is I use a VPN during my sessions or virtual private network. To those who don't know what a VPN is, it's basically it encrypts your information and sends it to a virtual server somewhere else. Okay, so kung may manghack man sa akin ngayon, sana hindi, sana wala, they will find that I am in Hong Kong right now, even though I am in Cavite. Okay, so ganun siya. At least yung IP address mo is protected. Does it ensure that you will not be hacked? No, but at least the hacker will have a harder time. Okay? At saka encrypted yung information. Tapos yung cloud storage, again, mas maganda kung paid siya. Kasi if it's not paid, you have to ask yourself what's in it for the developers like Google, like the owner of the VPN. Okay? Tapos aside from that, since before the quarantine, iniisip ko na kung ano yung gagawin naming database, kung Google ba or Dropbox. Okay? Actually, I still use Dropbox, kaya lang medyo mas disposable siya. Sa Google kasi doon nagsisend sa mga email. Madali siyang yung Google Drive, di ba, madali siyang mag-attach from Google Drive to Gmail. Kaya lang, you have to also ensure kanino mo i-send. Of course, dapat dun sa email lang ng parent. Okay? If possible, actually this is not possible with Gmail, set an expiry date of email. Okay? The message or the email will get deleted in a time that you indicate. Pwede after 1 day, after 24 hours, mag-delete na siya. Okay? Limit access. Syempre, common sa atin yung gumagawa tayo ng folders. For example, for this particular client, isang folder. Kaya tapos lahat sila nasa isang folder pa. So you should know who you're sharing it with. The safest way is to just attach the file instead of sending links. Okay? I'm sure marami nang may alam nito, but I think I just have to mention this. Kasi madali siyang may option sa Gmail, sa Google Drive na link versus attachment. So mas maganda kung attachment siya para yun lang talaga kung ano lang yung gusto mong i-send na file. Yun lang yung masasend. Okay? And then yun, again, I have to reiterate this as much as possible, go for advanced protection. Kung sa Dropbox Professional, I'm not really aware with other cloud providers, pero basta if there is a fee, you have to read properly the privacy and security process nila, and then decide for yourself. I'm just sharing what I'm using. Okay? So yeah, thank you, and back to you, hosts.
Okay. Siguro parang yan, no? Mako-compare mo yan to getting a security in your clinic. No? Parang,
yes.
Bakit ka kukuha ng someone na willing lang magbantay for free than if you can pay someone na more professional. Parang ganun.
Okay. Yung Zoom din, 'di ba? Ang dami nilang ngayon, ang daming articles. Okay? Na tungkol sa yun nga, privacy breaches. Yun nga. Pero I'm sure inayos na nila yan. Pero of course, it's gonna cost us. So, yun, as much as possible, go for paid version. Just a tip.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Dino and Ian. So,
Wait, I would like to add din pala.
aside from, yes, Dino.
Diba sa
Okay,
hospital kasi we store running notes sa mga clinics nyo, ini-store yung mga running notes, ini-store yung mga information obtained from your sessions. So, for example, nagkaroon kayo ng isang video conferencing session or telehealth session, magkakaroon tayo ng running notes and based on your video conference, I believe that dapat kasama yung running notes mo sa o everything na time-bound dapat sa sessions. Like, for example, isa-store mo yung running notes mo, kailangan within the time period din na nag-agree kayo sa clients mo. And after that time period or after that purpose has been achieved by your sessions or uh, your treatment sessions, I would suggest na i-dispose na rin yung notes na yun since this is covered by the Data Privacy Act na rin. So, yun lang naman. I don't know if that also applies sa clinical setting. Pero possible na baka i-cover din. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dino. So, we could now probably proceed to the next important topic that we need to discuss about billing. Because basically, this is the question of most therapies. Will there be a certain rate? So, how do we charge? How is charging and billing done? And should the fees be the same, lower, or higher? I think it's very difficult to set a certain amount. But to you too, what do you think are the necessary factors to be considered when it comes to the billing process? Just to serve as a guide for all the therapies and clinic managers out there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Definitely, it should be cheaper since we do not provide direct patient care. And also, in times like this, why would you charge high? Parang it's medyo may mali. So it definitely should be cheaper. Yeah. Did I answer the question?
Maybe just to add, as to the determination of that rate that you had, that you mentioned to be cheaper, what were the factors that you have considered in coming up with that certain rate that you have?
Okay. Number one is yun nga, hindi siya. It's not the same thing. Of course, we agree that in-person therapy is still the best way to deliver for service delivery. So dun pa lang less na dapat. Another thing is some people, I can't say if certified or not certified, good or not, but some people have already been doing telehealth, okay, or teletherapy. So we decided to match the price. Kasi available lang naman siya sa mga clients, sa existing clients na namin. We don't do evaluations yet. Kasi nga, we really want to, again, I can't use this word enough from Dino, due diligence. We have to practice that. Kaya ayaw namin na number one, mang-charge ng malaki. Number two, we want to keep our clients. And a lot of them actually ask to continue the intervention. So we wanted them to kumbaga to make this as convenient for them as possible. So tinapatan din namin yung price kasi may nabasa kami sa Facebook na yung may gantong price, teletherapy Philippines, tinapatan namin. So those competition, probable competition, lack of direct patient care and convenience to the client. Yun yung mga factors. Tatlo. Na naisip ko ngayon.
Okay, so another question would be on the allocation of the percentage of the owner and that of the therapist. Did you stick with the previous rates that you have when it comes to the sharing of the fee between the owner and that of the therapist?
Okay, kung mas mababa ang babayaran ng parents and families, mas mataas naman yung cut ng therapist. Okay, kasi they're not really using our resources, the clinic's resources. They're actually using their resources, they're working from home. Okay? Mataas lang yung may cut lang pa rin because the clients are still with our center. Okay, just for that. Okay, actually let me share how we do it. Meron ulit. Dali lang ha. I don't want to share too much kasi I understand merong topic na separate. Yung next topic is about this. Yung clinical manager's perspective. Manood po kayo. May magaling yung mga speaker doon, resource speakers. So billing namin is, number 1, centralized siya. Okay? Ibig sabihin ng centralized, everything goes to the center. The coffers of the center. How? Via mobile banking. Marami ng banks naman ngayon ang nagmo-mobile, if not all. E-wallet like GCash and Paymaya. Okay, just a side note, I said sa mga may bank account na I-suggest ngayong ECQ, dito nyo muna. Mag-e-wallet muna kayo. Lalo na kung meron kayong mga auto-debit. Pero kung may pambayad naman kayo, so why not? Sorry, medyo off topic. So yan, again, centralize ang payment and payroll. Meaning all the parents pay through our center, and then at the end of the week, we distribute the payments to the therapists who did service, who delivered service. Okay, how do we monitor those? So we use Practo. It's an app it's an app we've been using since 2016, scheduling app, and Google Sheets for the records lang. Ano yung binayad, ano yung napunta na ba, na transfer na ba? Okay. And then there's this thing with deferred payments. Actually, I want to ask Dino about this. Some of the parents, if a lot of them cannot do not handle tech well, they also cannot handle or do not handle mobile banking and e-wallets well. Okay, so ito yung mga cases na may pangbayad, willing naman magbayad, willing mag-therapy, gustong mag-therapy actually. Kaya lang, paano kung hindi talaga makapagbayad ng hindi cash? Okay? So I wanna ask Dino this kasi siya yung nakakaalam. Ano ba yung mga kailangan? So, i-share ko muna ha. Ano ba yung mga kailangan para pag deferred payment? Dapat ano yung i-provide ng therapist? Ano yung i-provide ng...
Well, general rule pa rin is kailangan meron kang resibo, di ba? Because for taxation purposes, kailangan may pasa yung resibo mo at ma-credit or ma-compute kung magkano ba talaga yung tax na babayaran mo. Pero pag deferred payment kasi you haven't received any payment pa, no? So I would suggest na you could use promissory notes or any notes na pwede mong kailangan i-sign ng client mo at kailangan mo rin i-sign para mag-agree na na-receive mo yung service na yun at balak na magbayad soon or as soon as maging capable siya magbayad ng service mo. So I would suggest na try to use promissory notes or other notes na pwedeng magpapakita na nagawa mo yun. So nagawa mo yun yung session na yun.
Okay, what if hindi sila makagamit ng computer? O yun, hindi rin makagamit ng e-signature?
Ang e-signature?
Well, sige.
Yes, sige muna.
Pwede bang possible ba yung sa recorded din na consent? Kasama siya.
Yes. You mean to say recorded na consent. Pwede rin naman. Kasama naman kasi sa rules and evidence kasi yung paggamit ng recorded or recordings in order to prove na merong contract na nangyari o merong bayaran na nangyari. Pero I would strongly suggest against it dahil mahirap siya patunayan compared to, for example, electronic or writing na mas madali siya pakita mo lang na may hawak kang kontrata or mayroon kang na-sign online. Pakita mo lang yung ready made na to use
last na. Real life example. Paano kung since marami naman mga naka-smartphone ngayon, Facebook, gumawa sila ng letter. Pwedeng ganito or siguro let's pretend this is a mousepad. Let's pretend this is a paper. Pwede bang ganito or nasa table tapos picturean. May pirma nila, may note. Yung mga sinabi mo na na details nakalagay naman doon. Would that do?
Yes, pwede nga siyang may ganun dahil it's a proof na rin or pwede nga siyang proof na rin na nagbayad siya diba, or may promissory note siya. Pwede nila picture nila yung pinirmahan niya na yun. Tapos considered as well, sa legal talk kasi it's secondary evidence. Pero syempre, pag na-require kang patunayan na nagbayad siya o na sa promissory note, kaya niya pa ibigay sa'yo yung actual paper na pinirmahan niya. Pero pwede lang na ginawa niya yung pang-resibo na yun. Pwede rin naman. Pero mas advice pa rin yung
Okay, thank
actual.
Yun lang po.
Okay, thank you so much. Oo nga, napaka-importante ng mga tinanong ni Ian. No? Kasi may encounter talaga yan eh. No? Okay, malapit na tayo. Actually, medyo lampas na tayo ng constant time. Pero siguro we could squeeze in 2 questions, no, Kim, from the audience. We received this question from from previous session yata to, pero tatanong na rin natin ngayon. Sabi nila, if telehealth will be pursued by both the therapist and the parent, how do we set fees? Shall it be less? Ay, parang nasagot na pala to. Yung next question naman, sorry.
Yeah, I think Ian has provided us with his perspective.
Oh.
It would be more of piece-to-piece rin. But I would just want to reiterate something in the guidelines. We didn't really put an amount. It's very difficult to really put a certain amount. What we have just put there would be certain qualifiers. It should be fair. It should be reasonable because it has been used or it will be used during this pandemic or during this situation. So I think that would just be the guide when it comes to the determination of the rate. And another clause that we have put there in the guideline is before the rates would be applicable, it is also urged by POT that the manager, basically the manager or the owner, really talk to all the parties involved so that to some extent there would be a consensus or a setting of a certain fee so that not everyone will be shocked later on as to why is this rate like this. So it's really case to case, it's context specific. But I think regardless of our location, we could really uphold and we could agree that it should be fair, it should be reasonable before it will be applicable to our very own center. All the stakeholders or all the parties were consulted before that certain rate was given. So there, I think just to reiterate the guidelines that we have from AOT to
Okay.
answer that question.
Thank you, Kim. Ayan, may isa pa tayong tanong. Will PAOT provide informed consent for us?
When we have crafted the guidelines, we would want just to provide the necessary elements of an informed consent because it would really depend on your location, on your very specialization, and the very intricacies or nuances of your practice. So just like what I have mentioned a while ago, as long as there would be discussion onto the nature of service, what would be provided, the duration, the risk, what are the alternative options, the rate, confidentiality clauses in relation to the Data Privacy Act, who would have access to your data. I think those are the basic elements of an informed consent. That would be sufficient. And aside from that one, we have also reiterated that the consent could just be withdrawn anytime by the patient or by the caregiver. It should not be imposed on them. So we are really towards making our clients, the caregivers, make informed decisions, informed choices. And again, just like what I have mentioned a while ago, that would just be possible if the therapist would be thoroughly explaining everything to the client. More than the form, what would be more important would be the process that both the therapist and the caregiver undergo. So there. So as of now, POT is not releasing a certain template or a certain form to be disseminated and to be replicated as of now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You know, we received a message from one of our lifetime members, no, si Caroline Fischel. Sabi niya, ito suggestion, sabi niya, for data security, encrypt and password protect all signed consent forms and recorded consent and save in a separate storage. No, not your hard disk. Sabi ganun. Parang for added security. No? I think sa ngayon yata pati pa PDF files, no, pwede na siyang password protected. Tama ba?
Yes, pwede na.
Okay. That will be-
Actually, I forgot to talk about this a while ago, pero pwedeng maganda rin kung may, di ba Google, kung Google yung pang reports, pang running notes, siguro may hiwalay ka pang for the consent
Yeah.
forms. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, siguro before we end, first, thank you, Ian and Dino, for joining us today. Any parting words to our audience? So, kung meron silang dapat ma-take away from this or take home to, sa ating OTalakayan ngayon, baka meron kayong parting words for our audience. Ian first?
Okay. I would like to summarize what Dino said on due diligence. Again, nire-repeat ko siya kasi importante siya. At saka what Kim said about thorough explanation, informed consent. Ang tawag dito, informed decision for the client to make informed decision. I wanna summarize it into one statement. Well, not really, pero malaking bagay kasi ang rapport sa magulang, do sa family. Okay? If you've been working with them a lot, you go through the therapy process, the therapy journey, side to side, meaning you work together, not just hindi lang yung parang therapy feedback. Okay? You will have good rapport, they will have informed decision kasi you will have told them. You will have told them everything already. Well, not everything, but a lot of things. So that will definitely affect their anong tawag dito, tendency na mag-avail ng service. Okay? So important ang rapport. I-discuss ko 'yan do sa isa pang topic. Important yung informed decision. Okay? Important yung malasakit. So yun talaga yung kailangan nating isipin. Dapat may malasakit tayo sa families. We don't want to con them. We want them. We want what's best for them. Okay? So with that in mind, yun, hopefully nakatulong yung mga knowledge lalo na ni Dino sa ni Kim. Sa akin konti. Thank you po.
How about Dino?
Sige. Before I go pa rin, I would like to express lang na on a normal day, I would strongly suggest na wag muna tayo mag-telehealth dahil unang-una, hindi siya regulated practice eh. Isipin mo na to some siguro, ang telehealth is just practicing Zoom with your client. Parang dito ito yung venue nyo in order to create your sessions. And the problem with that is that this is not exactly the same as an actual session. Ang nakikita mo lang kasi is yung nakikita mo yung mukha ng client ko, hindi mo nakikita yung physiological, tagal ko lang din nag-OT, so tagal ng mga terms doon. Pero hindi mo nakikita yung actual na nangyayari. It's possible na kailangan pang i-zoom yung kamay mo ng gano'n. So medyo mahirap siya, medyo awkward siya. And sa tingin ko...
May tips ako dyan. Anyway, so...
sige.
Doon sa
Yes. Ang point dito is parang ang hirap siguro niyang gawin pag hindi regulated ng practice. So it's possible na to some therapists, they would do well in how they adjust sa technology. Pero how about yung others na it's possible na sana hindi siya perfunctory or sana nag-exercise pa rin ng due diligence to give services to their clients, di ba? So, pero I understand. Right now kasi nasa ECQ tayo, no work, no pay ang mga occupational therapists. Kaya I understand the need to actually do telehealth as soon as possible dahil who knows, baka extend pa yung ECQ na to. Kaya, or possible sa GCQ, hindi pa considered na ba as essential work ang OTs? I don't know yet. Considered na ba?
On the way pa lang tayo sa pag-determine yan. Right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ian and Dino. Would you still want to add something, Dino?
Yun lang, pero I would suggest sana na if we're going to go through with telehealth, let's siguro gawa ng bagong resolution, including all of the provisions na mention ko sa Data Privacy Act. And siguro I don't know, tama nga na, siguro meron tayong informed consent form na sample talaga para maging consistent tayo kung anong laman talaga ito. Dahil it's possible kasi na may mga kulang eh. So, and this is legal kasi, and legal kasi does not care about how you do your process, pero basta man tama yung process mo, okay lang siya. Pero pag mali kasi yung ginagawang process, it's possible na pwede ka pang liable sa batas. Kaya I would suggest na we need to be very wary on following the Data Privacy Act as to our telehealth sessions. So, yun lang naman. Hopefully, maging okay naman.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dino. Thank you, Ian. So before we end, maybe certain realizations that we have. So the provision of telehealth would really entail a lot of considerations. And during these sessions, we have really discussed thoroughly legal implications and being in line with certain provisions, particularly of the Data Privacy Act. So it would really make us more accountable as to what we are doing. It is not just like a typical alternative for service provision that we would just be giving without thorough knowledge of what we are doing or without any thorough consideration of what the clients may be feeling or having, or without any emphasis on existing laws, existing regulations. So we must also be knowledgeable on all of those things so that we could still live up with the standards that we have as a profession and even with our code of ethics. So there, Lee.
Okay, so again, maraming salamat Ian and Dino for joining us. Sana hindi ito ang huling OTalakayan na ma-invite namin kayo as guests, no? So Ian, magkikita pa tayo sa isang OTalakayan.
Salamat din po.
Salamat ng marami. Dino, thank you again and congratulations for passing the 2019 bar examinations. We're very proud of you.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
So as we end, I just want to plug ang ating next OTalakayan. Okay? So share ko lang muna. Ito kasama to, no? Oops. Ayan. Ay, teka lang. Parang hindi siya wait lang. Share. Okay. Kita na ba? Yan na, no? Nakashare na ako, right? Okay, so ang ating next OTalakayan would be on Thursday. Pag-uusapan natin ang telehealth for clinic managers. Okay, so meron tayong tatlong guests dito, si Vanessa Ibanez, Denise Gomez, and Kate Aguas. Okay? Itong OTalakayan na ito, unlike the first two, this will be exclusive to members and this will be via Zoom webinars. So, meron siyang registration. Itong pinapakita natin ngayon na e-poster ay ipopost din naman natin sa ating Facebook page, no? So you can register either by going to the link, no, typing that address sa baba, or dahil medyo high-tech na tayo ngayon, may QR code, 'di ba? Scan mo, go to that link. Okay? Again, this is exclusive to PAOT lifetime, regular, and student members. So kung di ka pa member, if you want to join this one, edi register na. If you're a member pero expired ang membership, edi renew na. No? At join us in our Zoom session. Okay. Ayan. So, okay, Kim, I think we're done for the day. Thank you again.
Yes, I hope the audience learned a lot during this session. So see you on the next run or the next episodes of OTalakayan so that we would really know something and we would really be able to apply telehealth across all practice settings that OT professionals are in right now. So thank you, goodbye, and God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Salamat. Thank you.
Okay na po, naka-off na po yung live.
Thank you Ian, thank you Dino.
Diyan po ba sila?
Galing na lahat. Nawala? Wala na sila.
Balikin natin.
Balikin nyo na lang.
Teka, pababalikin ko
Wala.
sila.
Sige.
Sa Zoom. Ayan. Hey, Ann, may utang pa ako. Hindi ko pa nagagawa yung mga certificate. Ayusin ko.
Okay lang. Alam mo, feeling ko kahit hindi naman siya soon. Kasi
urgent.
hindi siya urgent.
Pero, naisip ko,